Well, scientists have developed a male birth control pill that is, they say, 99% effective. It's now being tested on a small group of men in Britain, but new studies show only a handful of men say they'd be willing to take it. There are currently no male contraceptive drugs. Here with us now, Dr. Leah Croll, neurologist at the Lewis Katz School of Medicine at Temple University. Is this like a daily birth control pill that women take? What do we know about this drug?
Well, there is one key difference between this drug and the birth control pills that women take, which is that this drug actually does not affect hormone levels. So the beauty in that is we would expect far fewer side effects. Typically when hormone levels fluctuate, men and women can experience mood changes, acne, weight changes, amongst many other side effects. And so to have a contraceptive option that does not play around with hormone levels is actually really, really exciting. I think it's also kind of an interesting statement about what women are sort of have been asked to deal with for decades now in the name of contraception, which are these hormonal side effects that is a burden women are forced to bear. And so to have an option that would relieve both men and women of that type of burden, I think is really something to be discussed.
Yeah, the problem is the men surveyed, many of which said, nope, not going to take it.
Right. Huge problem. And I think a really interesting statement overall about the reproductive health landscape that we're in right now. Obviously, women's reproductive health is a topic of fiery debate basically everywhere you look these days. And one thing that doesn't get talked about that often is this whole idea that for decades, women have been asked to put up with these hormonal side effects in the name of safer sex. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that. However, traditionally, these complaints that they experience with hormonal birth control methods have kind of been minimized in medicine and dismissed at large by society. What's interesting is that some male reproductive contraceptive research has sort of suggested that those side effects that are similar to what women experience for male subjects in those studies are too much for men to bear. So there's an important difference there in what women and men are asked to deal with.
And specifically, before I move to the next health topic, on this one, is it a pill that they would take once a month? I mean, what does sort of the dosage look like as people try to grasp whether or not it would be an option for them?
Yeah, so we are in a very preliminary stage of research here. I don't think it's been clarified exactly what dosing would look like. Basically, the way this drug works is it blocks the absorption of vitamin A in the testicles, and the testicles need that vitamin A in order to create sperm. So it essentially temporarily halts sperm production. But I think things like safety and dosing are still being worked out in these clinical trials.
All right, we'll watch for that. Meantime, a recent study shows daily cocoa extracts may help cognitive health in older people who have poor diets. Each participant in this was given comprehensive cognitive assessment at the beginning of the study, then a follow-up over the next 2 years. What specifically did it find? What's the takeaway here?
The takeaway here is actually more of what we already knew about cocoa. So cocoa, which is found predominantly in dark chocolate, more so than milk chocolate, is a food compound that contains a high proportion of flavanols. And flavanols are these compounds that have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects that promote really good brain and heart health. Flavanols are also good for promoting better blood flow towards the brain. So we've long thought of cocoa as a healthier food ingredient, and that's often why you hear of dark chocolate being recommended as a healthy treat. But the studies about how exactly cocoa extract affects cognition have been mixed, with some studies in the past suggesting it really does improve cognitive performance and other studies failing to conclude that same thing. And so this study is kind of somewhere in the middle. Overall, when they looked at older adults, they did not find a significant relationship between taking cocoa extracts and performing better on cognitive tests. But when they looked specifically at the group of older adults who had unhealthy diets and then added cocoa extract to that unhealthy diet, they found that that specific group of people did have a mild benefit in terms of their performance on cognitive tests.
All right. Interesting findings. Dr. Croll, thank you for your time. Good to see you. Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
The World Health Organization is calling for a ban on flavored vape devices. It's part of their effort to, quote, prevent uptake of e-cigarettes and counter nicotine addiction. The American Heart Association says e-cigarettes can be harmful to users' hearts and lungs, even when nicotine is not present. The WHO is also urging governments to put limits on, quote, the concentration and the quality of nicotine and to tax all e-cigarettes. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.